Hello Matrix, welcome to today's life science lesson, and today we are still looking into the exam guide for paper 1, and today we're going to look at some specific questions and just go through the tips of how to tackle those questions in your exam. But before we get into it, let's look at some exam writing competencies and remind ourselves of what is important as we are writing our exams and some of the skills that are required as we are writing the exam. So the first one is your reading skills. I cannot emphasize how important reading for understanding is when it comes to exam questions. Critical thinking, quite important as well. Time management, remember that 1 mark equals to 1 minute. So you should be very wise in how you spend the time as you are responding to your questions. Communication skills, you respond to questions in different ways. Some require single answer, some require long answer. So make sure that you understand and you know how to communicate your answer. Research skills, very important in those investigative questions. Active learning methods, also quite important in those investigative questions. And then fundamental numerical concepts and principles. What is life science without some calculations? So definitely calculations are going to be part of the skill that you need to respond to your exam paper. Okay, so planning and weighting versus time. So question 1 weighs 33.3%. So that means as you plan, you need to allocate approximately 45 minutes. In the same way, question 2, 33%, in your planning, you allocate 45 minutes. Question 3, you allocate 45 minutes because that's also 33%. Don't rush question 1. Okay, I'm repeating that. Do not rush question 1. It seems very easy, but do not rush through question 1. It's a third of your total mark, so you can score big there. Before you go to your complex questions in question 2 and 3, make sure that you've got everything correct in question 1. So you must aim for 45 minutes per question, and this will give you 15 minutes at the end to check your answers. Okay, and consider what you want to write in any blank spaces that you left out while you were answering. Okay, so the strategy here is quite important. 45 minutes for question 1. Similar way, question 2 and question 3. Okay, now how to approach the different types of questions. Multiple question, all right, multiple choice questions. Okay, you underline or you circle the important terms, or you can even highlight the important terms if you have your highlighter there. Try to answer the question first without looking at the alternative, and then you already have an idea of what to look out for, right? This is the easiest way, straightforward way of answering MCQ questions. You read the question, you highlight what is important, and then you try to answer, and then you look for that answer. Right? If the answer is there, then you pick that option. The second type or second method of answering your multiple choice questions is elimination. So you eliminate the answer that is wrong. You can see that this one doesn't speak to the given statement or description. You remove, you eliminate. Normally it's 2 options. You eliminate those, and then you work out the possible correct alternative from the ones that are remaining. Write numbers and answers underneath each other against the margin, not in 2 columns. Right? This makes it easier for markers to mark a list than when you have your answers in a column. And you're most likely to make mistakes, so keep it as a list. Right, let's look at a question. This is taken from November 2023. It's question 1.1.3. Which one of the following occurs immediately after fertilization? Now, that's my important piece of information. Immediately after fertilization. And what is it that you must know here? You need to know or think of mitosis. And then you quickly look at the options that are given. You see, this one has meiosis, that one has meiosis. So you can eliminate those options because immediately after fertilization, mitosis takes place. Okay, so option A or B are wrong. What about option C and option D? C reads, the blastula, which is a solid ball of cells, is formed by mitosis, while D says the morula, which is a solid ball of cells, is also formed by mitosis. So now here we need clear knowledge of what a blastula is and what a morula is. Right, so C, blastula, is that a solid ball of cells? No, it is not. Therefore, C is out. And what are we left with? We are then left with D. So D is the correct answer, and then the marking guidelines said D is the correct answer, and then you get your 2 marks. Okay? Right. What about the questions where you have to give the biological term? How can you tackle those in the exam? These are recall questions, level A, right? So it's not difficult to score very high marks here, right? If you've made sure that you study and you know your work very well, it should be easier for you to get these terms correct. So the key is reading carefully. Make sure that you read carefully. You may give the wrong term if you read something too quickly. Write the term under each other against the margin next to the question number. Okay, and then if you skip questions here, you are most likely to get the terms mixed up and then the whole question will be wrong. So please make sure that you are careful. Let's look at an example. November 2020, question 1.2. The blood vessel that transports oxygenated blood from the fetus towards the placenta. Right, so again, knowledge here is key, right? Basic knowledge of the concepts. Blood vessel that transports deoxygenated blood. This is important. Towards, from the fetus towards the placenta. That is an important piece of information because there are 2 types of blood vessels, isn't it? All right, you've got the umbilical artery and the umbilical vein. So we need to know which one carries deoxygenated blood from the fetus to the placenta. And grade 12, so remember that things are slightly different there in the umbilical vein, in the umbilical cord. The umbilical vein and the umbilical artery, they differ from the other veins and arteries in the body. All right. What about a small device that is inserted in the ear to drain fluids that are caused by middle ear infection? It's a device that they're asking for, right? That is used to drain the fluids. There's one correct answer here. The branch of autonomic nervous system that restores an increased heart rate back to normal. A branch, so a whole branch of the autonomic nervous system that restores an increased heart rate back to normal. What is that branch? And then the structure in the eye that absorbs light to prevent internal reflection. You see, if you don't know your concepts here, then you are not going to get this correctly. Let's look at the answers. Right. So the vein is the blood vessel, is the umbilical artery, the small device, grommets, the branch of the autonomic nervous system is the parasympathetic. Remember, you have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic branch in the peripheral nervous system. And then you've got a structure in the eye that absorbs light that is known as the choroid. Okay. Right. What about the question where you have to choose A, B, both A and B, or none? Again, you make sure that you read carefully. The answers here are not always straightforward. Again, try to give an answer for the term in the first column before looking at the 2 terms in the second column. So look at the description given in the first column. Try to think of an answer or give an answer and then go look for that answer in the second column. Your answer can be A only, B only, both A and B, or none. As instructed, do not write neither, right? That's not an option, so do not write that as a possible answer. A only, B, both A and B, or none. Right, so let's look at question 1.3. Indicate whether each of the description in column 1 apply to A only, B only, both A and B, none of the items in column 2. Write A only, B only, both A and B, or none next to the question number 1.1 to 1.3 in your answer book. So you write 1.3.1, right? And then you're going to give either one of those as your answer, depending on what is correct. A process that produces 4, number 1 is a process, it produces 4 mature gametes in human cells from a single diploid cells, right? Is that oogenesis or is it spermatogenesis? Which one applies? Is it both? Is it A only, B only, or none? Okay. So it's not just meiosis, it's gametes formation. And remember, in women, 1 ovum per month and 3 haploid cells don't become an ovum, they degenerate. While men, all the haploid cells, they become the sperm cells. All right, guys, as much as this is interesting, we're going to have to take a quick break and then we're going to resume shortly. Welcome back, grade 12s. Now let's look at how to approach different types of questions other than the question 1. So now we're looking at the different types of questions that you'll find in question 2 and question 3. So the first one that we're going to look at is how to approach your extract-based questions. Number 1, you need to make sure that you underline or circle the important terms as you are reading through the extract. So read the questions carefully. Now, as you are responding to the questions, did they ask from the extract or they didn't ask that? So if they asked from the extract, give an answer from the extract, please make sure that you use the information that they provided in the extract. If they didn't say that, use your own knowledge. You see, so you need to be very careful when you are reading there. Read carefully. What is it that they're asking? Is it they're asking for you to get the answer straight from the extract or to use your understanding and knowledge of the extract? Okay, extract will extend or link with the syllabus. So they will not give you an extract that has to do with economics in a life science paper. They will not be only what is in the syllabus, also quite important to note. However, the new information will link with the information that is in your mind or the work that you've already done. So the extract, they might bring something you've never heard of, but it will certainly link with the syllabus and what we have been learning throughout the year. Okay, now let's look at an example here. This is from November 2023, question 2.3, and it has been adapted for this lesson. Ovarian cyst in females. Okay, ovarian cysts are fluid-filled structures that develop inside the ovaries of some women. The 2 most common types of cysts in women of reproductive age are follicular and corpus luteum cyst. Already there's some information that we know here. Follicular cysts, they develop when a Graafian follicle fails to rupture and release an ovum. The follicle continues to grow because of continued hormonal stimulation. Right? We are given the course now here. A corpus luteum cyst develops when the corpus luteum does not degenerate, even when a person is not pregnant. So you can also think now what this could possibly mean. The other implication. Women often show no symptoms and the cyst disappears. But in rare cases, the ovarian cyst keep on increasing in size. A very large cyst can cause intense pain and may rupture, leading to internal bleeding, such cysts will require a surgical removal. So there's quite a lot of important information here, right? Okay, and then we move now to the question. From the extract, give 2 structures in the ovary that may develop into cysts. They told you from the extract. That means you must get your answer from the extract. And then again, from the extract, give 2 symptoms associated with the very large cyst. Okay. All right. So from the extract means don't make up your answers. You must get them from the extract. And then graphia and follicle corpus luteum, those answers are in the extract. Pain, we read the pain, and may rupture leading to internal bleeding. That is from the extract, straightforward. Okay? Right. What about the troublesome investigations or investigative questions? Read carefully. Please make sure that you thoroughly read the investigation. Normally it's long, maybe 3/4 of your page. Please make sure that you go through each and every detail, highlighting what is important. You can even write there what you think the independent variable is, what the dependent variable is as you are reading through, right? Find the aim first. Why are we doing this investigation? It is often given as an investigation to determine and then that is the aim, okay? The aim contains 2 variables. Determine which one they measured to get the results. Remember, the one that we measure in an investigation is most likely to be our dependent variable. The factor that caused the results, okay? The factor that caused the results or caused the change, okay, that is also most likely to be our independent variable. It also could be the one that has been manipulated, changed by the investigator. Okay, and then what are some of the things that they kept the same? Those will be your controlled variables. Okay. Right, let's look at an example. An investigation was conducted to determine the influence of adrenaline. We were determining the influence of adrenaline, that is one factor, on the blood glucose levels of type 1 diabetics who were also glucagon deficient. Right, so there are 2 important variables here to determine the influence of adrenaline on who? On the blood glucose levels of type 1 diabetics. But these type 1 diabetics were also glucagon deficient. Right. The investigation was conducted as follows. Now they are giving us the steps. 100 males, okay, let's just underline correctly there. 100 male patient with type 1 diabetes mellitus who were also glucagon deficient. They participated in this investigation. They were then given the same amount of food and water at the same time for a period of 3 days. That's the length of the investigation. The same, okay, very important to note. Their blood glucose levels were measured. What did we measure? Blood glucose levels. On the morning of the 3rd day, a solution with low concentration of adrenaline was then administered intravenously straight into the veins. And then after 20 minutes, the blood glucose concentration in each person was then measured again. Okay, the blood glucose levels before and after administering adrenaline were then compared. Right, guys. So let's go to the question. Identify the independent variable in the investigation. And the second one says, state the 3 other factors that should have been kept constant during the investigation. Right, so the first one, the independent variable, we need to get that from the two variables that we identified. Remember, independent variable, by definition, how did we define it? It's the variable that causes the change, that has been manipulated, right? And then the dependent is the variable that is being measured. And then this question state other. So other means not from what has already been said in the investigation or in the steps, right? Other factors that should have, that means they are not being mentioned here. Okay, so dependent variable will be the blood glucose level because that's what we measure. Independent will be the adrenaline because that's what causes the change. Okay, and then other, as I said, it means not the ones that are being given. So the first three could be the same type of food. We were only told here that they were given the same amount, but not type. The concentration or amount of adrenaline, we were also told here that after 20 minutes, okay, let's quickly check. It says a solution with low concentration of adrenaline was administered, but we are not told how much of it. Okay, the types of tools, the activity of these people, we don't know if they were exercising or not, the age, the mass, the health. So there's quite a lot of things that they should have mentioned here that they checked before conducting this investigation and made sure that they keep them constant. So you're going to give those. Okay, right. Now let's move on to our graph questions. How to interpret a graph. Number one, you look at the heading. Okay, you look at the heading to see which are the main two variables. If you're given a graph, it will definitely have a heading. What are the main two variables there? Right, the independent variable is on the x-axis, the horizontal axis. The dependent is on the vertical y-axis. There may be two graphs or two lines in a graph. Check for the labels on those lines or graph lines. When giving a trend shown by the graph, read the horizontal axis first. So which one are your horizontal axis? The x-axis. And then give the trend by saying how the variable that is given on the x-axis affects the variable that is given on the y-axis. All right, now let's look at this graph example, and we are interpreting a May 2019 question 2.3. So again, read the caption so that you can get the feel of what is happening here. Comparison of the speed, so this is a comparison of the speed of impulse transmission in myelinated and unmyelinated sensory neuron of increasing axon diameter. X-axis axon diameter, please note micrometers, and then speed of impulse on your y-axis, meters per second. Then you've got two lines. So the one is for unmyelinated and the other one is for myelinated. Okay, give the diameter range in micrometers when the speed of the impulse is faster in unmyelinated axon than in myelinated axon. What are they asking for? Diameter, range. The second question, describe the relationship between the axon diameter and the speed of the impulse in your myelinated axon. So let's quickly check the first one. Give the diameter in micrometers when the speed of the impulse is faster in unmyelinated, is faster here than this one. So when was it faster, right? You check here, right? It was faster, and then here the myelinated became faster, and then this one dropped a bit. So we want that diameter in micrometers, right? So it's between 0 and 1 micrometers. Then the second one, you are describing the relationship. As you can see, as the axon diameter increases, the speed of the impulse also increases. It's giving us a positive trend. Okay. Table to a graph. Check the information in the stem above the table. You may need this. Column headings are often the variable of an investigation. So make sure that you use them, right? Make sure that you use them as axes if you have to convert the table to graph. Axis intervals must be equal on X and Y. Do not use table intervals as they are unless they are already in equal intervals. Read carefully and draw the correct type of graph. So only plot the points or the bars. It may not be all the numbers on the table. Okay. Right. Let's look at an example quickly. An investigation was carried out to determine the effect of smoking during pregnancy on the baby's birth weight. Here's our table. Here we have the birth weight. We have the percentage of total birth in 2009. Then you've got mothers who smoked and mothers who did not smoke. Okay, now here's the weight. And remember what does that sign mean? Okay, so this is less than 1,000. 1,000 to that number, 1.5 to 1.99 to 22499. And then you are given the percentage for mothers who smoked and those who did not. And then they are saying draw a histogram to represent the percentage birth in each weight group born to mothers who smoked. So we are using this information here. Right. The width of your bars must be the same. Okay. Make sure that your scale gives you the equal width of bars. What is the criteria here? Did you draw a histogram, meaning there are no spaces between the bars? Do you have a heading or caption or title for your graph? The percentage of low birth weight babies born to mothers who smoked during pregnancy. Both the variables are appearing there. Correct labels. Here's my label on the x-axis, label on the y-axis. And you have the units as well. Correct scale on the x and the y-axis. You can see here the spaces are equal. And then is your bar drawn correctly. If all the bars are correct, you get 2 marks. Right? If 1, 2, 3 are correct, you get a mark. Okay. What about questions that ask you to tabulate? Give only the required number of the differences, not more. So if they say 2 differences, 2, right? There must be a vertical line between the columns. There must be this line between the columns. You must have column headings here and then draw a horizontal line below these 2 headings as I have done here. And there is a mark for giving a table. So make sure you have that. Right. Examine the diagram of the mother and fetus's blood supply. D is the artery. Okay. And then quickly look for D. There is D. D is the artery. Tabulate 2 differences between the composition of the blood in the blood vessel C and D. Right. Blood vessel of the fetus. Blood vessel of the fetus. Here is the fetus. This one, the arrow is indicating that blood is going in that direction. This blood is coming in that direction from the placenta there, from the mother. So you tabulate. Right. There is your table. You get a mark. And you see there's a mark for a table. And then you write the 2 differences between the blood, the composition of the blood in blood vessel C, composition of the blood in blood vessel. And as you can see, there is your column with the headings. Right. What about calculate? Questions that ask us to calculate. So you read carefully so that you are sure that you calculate the correct answer. Markers often see that learners calculated the difference when the question said calculate the percentage decrease. If your calculator died or you forgot it, write the numbers down to show how the calculation is done. Even without the final answer, you get the marks for the methodology, not 0 for partly correct answers. So the steps here, they will get you some marks. Work to 2 decimal places. Do not round off to the whole number. And always make sure you show your calculations or you're working out. Here's an example. Calculate the percentage decrease in the average skin temperature of the boy before and directly after the workout. Let's look at the graph. Skin temperature over a period of time. There is skin temperature on my y-axis, time on my x-axis. Exercise, all right, before and after the rest period, directly after the exercise. Go back to your question. They want percentage decrease from where? Right, they said of the boy before. So let's look for before. Here's before and we have a number. And directly after. Here's directly after and we have our value there. So you must show all your workings. You get the difference, so it's going to be this minus that, 37.4 minus 35.5. Then we divide by the original value, then we multiply by 100. Can you see those marks? That's a mark there, that's a mark there. So if you forgot your calculator, you'll only lose this mark, but you'll still be able to get the 2 marks for the correct method. Okay. How to approach different types of questions. Now we're looking at extended paragraphs. Expect these questions. They are going to be there. There is no essay. Therefore, these questions will definitely be there to test your ability to write more than a sentence or 2 on a topic. So this is very intentional, guys. These general counts between 5 and 8 marks and usually require you to give 5 to 8 facts or points. Learn the paragraphs that have fairly standard marking guidelines. Paper 1 topics commonly asked are accommodation, hearing, balance, aspects of homeostasis, tropism, reflex arc, and embryo development. So these are topics where you can expect these types of extended paragraphs or long questions. Right, so here's an example. Wearing a face mask reduces the spread of viruses. Wearing a face mask reduces the spread of viruses, but there were concerns about the efficiency of breathing when wearing the face mask. This is during the COVID-19 era. So scientists investigated the effect of wearing face masks on the carbon dioxide level in the blood. They investigated what? The effect of wearing face masks on what? Carbon dioxide levels in the blood. They used 150 healthy volunteers and asked them to sit still for 10 minutes and then exercise for 10 minutes. Both conditions were repeated with and without the mask. Then they recorded the carbon dioxide levels at the end of each 10 minutes. Okay, now here's the question. Describe the homeostatic control of carbon dioxide when it's high in the blood. Now, we are told what is happening here in the investigation. However, you are asked to do what? To describe now a homeostatic control of carbon dioxide in the blood when it's high. So this then tells us that we need to know what happens, what will be stimulated, and how the body responds to high concentration of carbon dioxide. Right, so you see, when it comes to your extended paragraph marking guidelines, you can see some points there. That means each and every point gives a fact. All right, and there are many facts. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? But remember what we said earlier on, we only interested in 7 points since there are 7 marks that are allocated to this question. All right, guys, let's take a quick ad break and then we will wrap up shortly after this. Welcome back, grade 12s. Now we are going to wrap up and I'm just going to share some final thoughts on this lesson. Right now, one of the very important things that we've noted is that it's important to read through the questions. If they want name and letter, please make sure that you give both because that's a mark and that's also a mark. Don't give more items than they ask for. Right? Give the best ones that you know, because if you give more, you are wasting time. Don't leave lines open between multiple choice questions, one answer underneath the other, okay? Leave a line open between sub-questions. For example, question 1.1, which is multiple choice questions. Then once you've answered all 10, skip a line, then you start with 1.2, which is terminology. Start question 2 and question 3 on a blank page because they are marked by different markers, and then write on both sides of the paper. All right, cross out in a pen if you don't want something to be marked. If you've made the mistake, please make sure that you cross out with the pen, and it must be clear that you've cancelled this one. You don't want the markers to mark it. If it's wrong, you want them to mark the second one. Okay, if crossing out is not clear, then your first attempt, which is incorrect, is going to be marked. Bring a ruler, extra pen, pencil, and a calculator. Remember, you can also be asked to draw a pie chart. So make sure you bring all the necessary instruments and stationery. Leave difficult questions till last. Just leave enough blank spaces and come back to those questions once you finish the rest of the questions that you know. Mark allocation will be a guide of the space that you need to leave out. If you find that you left the question out, do it on the page after your last answer. Then tell the marker, communicate with the marker there of where question 2 is. Just say question 2.2.4 is on the last page. Practice answering questions that have a fairly standard marking guideline. A fairly standard marking guideline, like what? Your graphs, accommodation, balance, embryo development. The best help you can get is from the past papers and the memos. Do not read the question and look at the memo. Try the questions, answer them, and then go to the marking guidelines or the memo to check where you went wrong. Guys, do not cheat. I cannot emphasize how important it is that you stay away from cheating, right? It's quite important because the consequences of cheating, they can be lifelong. You can be banned from writing matric for years. So this is it's a criminal offense. Don't do it, right? So guys, this is all that I had for paper 1. I wish you all the best with your exam. Please make sure that you practice thoroughly, as practice makes perfect. Now that's all that I had for you today. Thank you so much for joining me on this lesson. Goodbye for now.